Tonight, my boyfriend sent me a message saying we needed to talk seriously. It sounded harmless, but just yesterday, everyone on my feed saw something I can't forget. A public post of him cooking in another girl's kitchen. Who goes public like that while still being in a relationship? I froze, my fingers trembling over the screen. It wasn't a rumor or a sneaky picture. He had uploaded it himself, smiling like a man completely at home with her. I'm 26, working in digital media in Chicago, and I never thought I'd end up being embarrassed like this. After all the time we'd spent together, I believed he'd at least have the decency to respect me. But that one post broke everything. What cut deeper was how easily he disrespected me for everyone to see, and how she stood there beside him, playing the part. And now, after all that, he texted me like nothing happened. What could he possibly have to say tonight? I'd known Ryan for nearly 2 years, and up until now, if anyone asked, I would have smiled and said I'd found someone genuinely good. Ryan was thoughtful and steady, the kind of man who made me believe in calm love. His family liked me too. I still remember his mother once saying, "You're good for his future." It made me feel secure, like I was truly part of something that could last. I imagined that one day we'd build a home together, but things started to fall apart over something that seemed small. One evening Ryan came home, tossed his bag on the counter, and said casually, "Oh, Maya texted me. She's having a problem with her roommate." Her roommate had suddenly moved out, leaving Maya unable to cover the rent. Before I could even offer to help, maybe by posting a roommate ad or asking friends, Ryan continued as if his idea made perfect sense. "I'll move in with Maya for a few weeks, just to help split the rent until she finds someone new." I looked at him, waiting for the punchline. "Ryan, you're joking, right?" He frowned and shook his head. "No, I'm serious. She's in a tough spot. What else can she do?" I just stared at him, too shocked to speak. "You think moving in with another woman while you have a girlfriend is normal?" The look in his eyes chilled me. There wasn't a trace of guilt, only a strange confidence. As if he expected me to admire him for being helpful. "Harlo, you're overreacting," he said calmly. "Friends help each other. If you trust me, this shouldn't be a problem." I tried to breathe steadily, my hands clenched. "Ryan, this isn't about trust. It's about boundaries. You can help her in many ways, lend some money, help her find a roommate, even cover rent for a while, but moving in with her, no couple would see that as normal." He shrugged, a smirk touching his lips. "You're always talking about boundaries. I think you're just being selfish. Maya needs help, and all you care about is your own feelings." That word, selfish, cut right through me. I'd gotten used to him twisting things when we argued, but this time it stung deeper. He was turning me into the villain for not wanting my boyfriend to live with another woman. I met his eyes and asked quietly, "Do you even think about what it would feel like for me to sit at home every night while you're living with someone else and keep trying to convince myself to trust you?" Ryan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking at me like a teacher disappointed in a slow student. "The problem is you don't trust me enough," Ryan said firmly. "If you truly trusted me, it wouldn't matter where I stayed or who I was with." I stood up, pacing the living room as frustration built in my chest. Every memory of me compromising, staying quiet just to keep the peace, flashed through my mind. And now, the moment I drew one small boundary, I was suddenly the selfish, insecure one. "Ryan, stop twisting this," I said, my voice trembling. "This isn't about trust, it's about respect. You're making a decision that you know will hurt me, and you're pretending it's some noble act." He pressed his lips together, then gave me that half smile that always made me uneasy. "You're doing it again, trying to control me. You want to stop me from helping a friend. Do you even realize how unreasonable you sound?" The way he said it made everything I said seem irrational. as if caring about my relationship meant I was possessive. That's when I realized this wasn't a simple disagreement anymore. It was manipulation, a subtle game where Ryan made sure I looked like the villain no matter what I said. We argued the entire night. I tried every possible solution, suggesting roommate apps, real estate listings, even offering to give Meyer a few $100s to help with rent. But Ryan brushed everything aside. The only real way to help, he said, is for me to move in with her. Why does it have to be you, Ryan? I asked, my voice tight. Why can't Maya find someone else or handle her own situation for once? The more I thought about it, the stranger it felt. Maya wasn't helpless. She had a stable job, a college degree, and plenty of friends. Yet Ryan spoke about her as if she were completely dependent on him, using her as an excuse for his choice. So, out of every possible option, you picked the one that hurts me the most. And you expect me to be proud of you for it. I said quietly. He looked back at me with a blank, almost distant expression. And for the first time, I felt like I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. Maybe I never really had. That Friday, Ryan told me he was going over to Maya's place to help her set up the spare room for a new tenant. He said he might come home late. I wanted to argue, but something inside me gave up. I told myself, let him act eventually. The truth will reveal itself. The next morning, my phone buzzed as I woke up. It was a message from him, a photo of Ryan lying in bed, shirtless, with that smug smile I'd grown to hate. The caption said only one thing: trust is everything. For a moment I just stared. I had expected an apology, maybe a message saying, sorry I'm late. Didn't mean to worry you. Instead, he'd sent me a photo that felt like a slap in the face, mocking my trust and self-respect all at once. I called immediately. He answered almost before the first ring ended, as if he'd been waiting. Ryan, what are you doing? I demanded, my voice shaking. He laughed lightly, almost teasing. Relax, Harlo, I just wanted to be transparent. You're always saying I should be honest, right? Well, now you can see exactly where I am and what I'm doing. What could be clearer than that? Transparent, that word echoed in my head. Sending your girl, and a picture of yourself in another woman's bed, and calling it honesty. It was beyond insulting. You really think this is transparency? I snapped. You're overreacting, he said calmly. If you trust me, this shouldn't be a problem. I gripped my phone so tightly my hand ached. I realized then I wasn't talking to someone who misunderstood me. I was talking to someone who enjoyed twisting the truth until it made me doubt myself. Ryan didn't sound even slightly apologetic. If anything, he seemed to enjoy watching me unravel, as if my pain was some kind of experiment to him. I ended the call and slammed my phone down on the table, my hands shaking. I told myself I needed space, to breathe, to calm down, to stop myself from breaking apart in my tiny Chicago apartment. But a few minutes later, my messenger pinged. It wasn't from Ryan, it was from Maya. Her message was short, sharp, and cruel. If you want to keep Ryan, grow up. Men hate clingy, emotional girls. Don't make him choose. You'll lose. I just stared at the screen. I had never even spoken to her before. She had no right to interfere in my relationship, let alone talk to me like this. Yet here she was, speaking as if she owned the situation, like she was handing down judgment from some throne. I typed out a reply, Maya, who do you think you are? But I deleted it before sending. I knew that's what they both wanted, to see me lose control, to see me look unhinged. I sat there frozen, my mind replaying the past few weeks. Ryan had told me Maya was struggling after her roommate moved out. He'd insisted that only he could help her, and now here she was, messaging me like an accomplice, as if they'd planned this entire humiliation together. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ryan. His voice was light, almost casual. I know Maya texted you, he said. She just cares, don't be harsh on her. I let out a bitter laugh. Care? She called me weak and told me not to bother you. And that's care, Ryan. Do you even hear yourself? His tone shifted instantly, flat, cold, practiced. The problem isn't Maya, Harlo. The problem is you. You're too sensitive. If you were more mature, none of this would be happening. That sentence, the problem is you, cut through me like a knife. He wasn't just gaslighting me anymore. He was rewriting reality, making me the villain in my own story. That night, I sat by my window, the city lights reflecting off the glass. I thought about when we first met, how Ryan used to take me to quiet cafes, talk about his big career dreams, and make me believe he was the kind of man I could trust. But now everything had changed. It wasn't love anymore. It was a psychological game, one that he and Maya seemed to play together just to break me. The pain lingered, anger burned low, but something in me hardened. I realized that if I stayed silent, they'd think they'd won. So I made up my mind. I wouldn't be the victim anymore. That evening, I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early. The golden light fell softly across the wooden tables, and the scent of roasted coffee mixed with a hint of wine. I sat there, steadying my breath, trying to imagine what Ryan would say when he finally walked in. For a brief moment, I wanted to believe Ryan would apologize, that all of this had just been a thoughtless mistake. But when he walked into the restaurant, his calm, almost casual stride told me otherwise. He sat down across from me, offered a faint smile, the same smile that once felt comforting, but now sent a chill straight through me. "Thanks for coming," he said smoothly. "I think we need a mature conversation." His tone was steady, like a teacher about to deliver a lecture. I said nothing, just met his eyes, waiting to hear how he'd try to twist this next. Ryan took a deep breath and began, his words polished and rehearsed. "Harlo, every relationship needs trust and compromise. I feel like you don't trust me anymore. You act as if I've done something terrible, when in reality, I'm just helping a friend through a difficult time. If you approached this with a bit more maturity, you'd see this as completely normal." "Normal?" I repeated, barely containing my disbelief. "You stay overnight at her place. Send me a shirtless photo from her bed. And you call that normal?" Ryan raised his eyebrows slightly, his expression perfectly calm, so calm it bordered on arrogance. "That was me being transparent," he said. "I didn't want to hide anything. You should feel secure that I'm willing to be open about what I'm doing." I looked straight at him, searching for even a flicker of guilt or regret, but all I saw was smug satisfaction. "So, what exactly did you call me here for, Ryan?" I asked quietly, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He placed his hands together on the table, leaned in slightly, and looked at me like he was about to deliver something final, something rehearsed long before I arrived. "I'm moving in with Maya," Ryan said flatly. "That's my decision. She needs me, and I can't turn my back on a friend just because you're uncomfortable with it." My chest tightened, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "So, no matter what I feel, you've already made up your mind?" "Yes," he replied, his tone firm. "This is what I have to do. If you really love me, you'll understand." I tilted my head slightly, keeping my eyes locked on his. "And what if I made the same decision? If one of my male friends lost his place, and I decided to move in with him for a few weeks, would you be okay with that?" He gave a short, contemptuous laugh. "Harlo, that's a false comparison. It's not the same." "Different how?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. He waved his hand dismissively, his tone growing defensive. "Because I trust you. I wouldn't feel threatened if you had male friends, but my situation is different. Maya has no one else." But I could see it now, clear as glass. Ryan wasn't blind or naive or overly kind. He knew exactly what he was doing. Helping a friend was just a cover. What he really wanted was control. the power to rewrite what was right and wrong, to make me doubt myself and call it love. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Ryan, what you actually want is control. You want me to choose between my self-respect and staying with you. He frowned, his voice sharp as a blade. You always turn everything into a problem. It's impossible to talk to you. Impossible because you never actually listen. I said softly. That night when I walked out of the restaurant, I felt different. There was no more shouting, no more desperate need to prove I was right. I realized arguing with Ryan was useless. It only fed the game he wanted to play. He didn't want understanding. He wanted control, so I decided to stop reacting. I would be silent, but not submissive. A calm silence laced with irony and sweetness. The kind that makes manipulators stumble. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Bought a small suitcase today. I'll start packing tomorrow. I looked at the message, my lips curving into a quiet smile. Before, I would have replied with a storm of questions and accusations. But not this time. I typed back quickly. That's great. Don't forget to pack an extra toothbrush for Maya. Wouldn't want her to think you came unprepared. Seconds later, my phone rang. His voice sounded tight. Harlo, what do you mean by that? I feigned surprise. Mean what? I'm just supporting you. Roommates should have their personal items right. I imagined his face tightening, struggling to find words. He was so used to me crying or arguing that this calmness rattled him. Stop being sarcastic, he muttered, clearly irritated. I smiled faintly, keeping my voice as soft and sweet as sugar. Who said I was being sarcastic? I asked lightly. I genuinely wish you and Meyer all the happiness in the world. Ryan exhaled sharply, clearly thrown off, then rushed to change the subject. I'm doing this for you, Harlo, he said quickly, to prove I have nothing to hide. I know, I replied softly, my tone calm and even. And I truly appreciate that transparency. That's when it hit me. He wanted me angry. He needed me to explode, to feed the version of the story he'd built. Harlo the controlling one. Harlo the immature girlfriend. But when I didn't follow his script, I could almost feel him losing his balance. The next day, I decided to play a different game. I acted cheerful, almost too cheerful. Ryan sent me a photo of a few packed boxes. I replied, make sure you wrap your shirts carefully. Maya will probably love how tidy you are. He texted back a single question mark. I added, I'm only encouraging you. A few hours later, he sent a picture of his dismantled desk. I wrote back, don't forget your desk lamp. Maya might need extra light when you two stay up late working. I could picture him reading those words, jaw tightening. He wanted a fight, and instead I smothered him in calm mockery. That evening when Ryan called, I answered in a cheerful voice. You seem different, he said suspiciously. Why aren't you angry? Angry for what? I asked sweetly. You've already decided what's best. I'm just supporting you. He hesitated. Are you really okay with this? Very okay. I said simply. Honestly, I feel relieved. I heard his breathing change on the other end, sharp and uneven. That's when I knew. I'd hit a nerve. Ryan thrived on controlling my emotions, on seeing me react. But without that, he had nothing left to feed on. In the days that followed, I stopped arguing altogether. No more explanations. No more emotional pleas. I replied to his texts with calm, cutting sweetness. I bet Maya cooks wonderfully. Don't forget to compliment her. It'll make her day. You should bring her flowers for the living room. Every woman appreciates a man who pays attention to detail. Each message made him more restless. He started calling nonstop. His voice caught somewhere between anger and panic. What are you trying to prove, Harlo? What game are you playing? I answered gently, my voice almost tender. No game at all, Ryan. I'm just learning to be mature, like you and Meyer advised. There was a pause, a small hitch in his breathing, as if the words had lodged in his throat. If Ryan wanted to turn our relationship into a game of control, then I'd change the rules. That Tuesday morning, a name crossed my mind, Cole. He'd been a classmate back in college, now an architect in Boston. He'd liked me once, but I turned him down because I'd just started dating Ryan. Cole and I had stayed in loose contact over the years. An occasional birthday message, a quick comment on a post, nothing more. But that morning, I typed out a simple message. "Do you have time for coffee? I need to talk." Not even 10 minutes later, he replied, "Sure." When and where? We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. When I walked in, he was already there, sitting by the window where the sunlight fell across his face. He looked calm, grounded, exactly what I needed. "Harlo," he said, standing up with that same warm, easy smile. "It's been forever." It felt like breathing again after weeks of suffocation. Sitting across from someone who wasn't judging me, who didn't twist my words, felt like a relief I hadn't realized I was craving. I just needed some air. I admitted, "Ryan's turning everything into a nightmare." I told him everything: how Ryan had decided to move in with Maya, how he'd posted those photos, how every conversation turned into a lecture about trust and maturity. When I mentioned Maya's mocking message, my voice wavered despite myself. Cole's jaw tightened, his hand clenched around his coffee cup, eyes dark with disbelief. "I can't believe this," he said quietly. "What kind of man thinks that's normal?" I gave a small, bitter smile. He called me selfish for not supporting him. "No, Harlo," Cole said firmly. "He's the selfish one, and a fool if he thinks you'd ever accept that." That single sentence hit deeper than he probably realized. For the first time in weeks, someone said out loud what I had been gaslit into doubting. That I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the problem. When we finished, Cole stood and grinned. "Let's take a selfie, for old time's sake." I agreed to the selfie. In the picture, we both smiled naturally, sunlight spilling through the window behind us. The moment felt calm, genuine. Without hesitation, I posted it to my Instagram story with the caption, "Feels good to be around someone who respects boundaries." Within 10 minutes, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Ryan was calling. I ignored it. He called again and again until my screen lit up with one notification after another. Then came the texts. "Where are you? Who is that guy? What are you trying to prove, Harlo?" I laughed quietly to myself. So many nights I had cried over his provocations, his games that left me questioning my sanity. And now, he was the one unraveling. When I finally answered, his voice was laced with fury. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Just having coffee," I replied calmly. "With an old friend. I didn't hide anything. You always said friendships with the opposite sex are fine as long as they are transparent, remember?" I could almost hear his jaw tighten. "You're retaliating." "No," I said softly. "I'm learning just like you taught me." He inhaled sharply, trying to contain his anger. "Harlo, don't push me," he hissed. I looked out the cafe window at the passing cars, the hum of city life moving steadily without us. "Push you?" I said quietly. "I'm just playing by your rules." Then I hung up before he could respond. All evening, messages poured in, some pleading, "I want you to trust me." Others blaming, "You're destroying this relationship." I read them all, but didn't reply. Instead, I texted Cole, "Thank you. Talking with you today made me feel lighter." He replied almost instantly, "Anytime. You deserve respect." A week later, Ryan moved in with Maya. It was a gray, rainy weekend in Chicago. He sent photos of boxes and suitcases, messages full of forced logic and hollow justifications. But this time they didn't pierce me. I didn't let his images or his words decide how I felt. I realized that to destroy the story Ryan had written for me, I had to write my own. And it started with Cole. Cole never pried, never pushed. He simply showed up when I needed someone steady. That weekend, we went to the farmer's market, rows of chrysanthemums, shiny red apples, and jars of golden honey under the morning sun. I laughed when he handed me a small paper bag of cherry tomatoes. "Try these," he said. "They're sweet." As my phone buzzed again and again, Ryan's name flashing across the screen, I ignored it. Messages piled up. "Who are you with? Harlo, answer me. You think this is right?" I placed my phone face down on the wooden table, smiling at Cole. "You're right," I said, popping a tomato into my mouth. "They are sweet." He smiled softly, his eyes warm and patient, asking for nothing more. The next day, we visited an art exhibit. The gallery was quiet, walls lined with abstract paintings, soft lights tracing the brushstrokes. Cole stood beside me, his head tilted slightly. "Do you see yourself in this one?" he asked, half light, half dark. "But together they make something powerful." I froze. I had told myself Cole was part of a quiet counter to Ryan, a reminder that I still had choices. But his words carried a sincerity I hadn't expected. They didn't sound like a move in a game. They sounded real. I lifted my phone and snapped a photo, our hands holding the exhibit catalog together, and captioned it, "Being with someone who sees your worth priceless." And this time, Ryan's reaction wasn't confusion or irritation. It was pure, explosive fury. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. One message after another lit up the screen. "You're trying to provoke me. Harlo, stop being childish." Final warning, stop seeing that guy. I read them all, then smiled faintly. I typed a single reply, "You're with Maya, remember." Then I slipped my phone back into my bag and focused on Cole, who was describing the sketches for his new architecture project. His voice was calm, steady, like our time together existed outside the chaos Ryan was trying to create. But Ryan wasn't the only one coming undone. Maya had started to show cracks too. One evening, I came across her Instagram story, a picture of her kitchen with the caption, "Some people just can't handle it when their boyfriends have female friends." I actually laughed out loud. The post wasn't subtle, and she clearly meant me. She thought she was flaunting victory, but all I saw was insecurity disguised as pride. I didn't respond directly. Instead, I posted a quiet photo of my own, a coffee cup resting on the table with Cole blurred in the background, bent over his sketchbook. My caption read, "Some people don't need to tear others down to prove their worth." Within an hour, my messages exploded. Friends texting, "Harlo, you're going bold. Ryan must be losing it. Maya won't like that one." I just replied with a laughing emoji. That night, Ryan called. His voice was low, rough with frustration. "Why do you keep showing up with that guy?" I answered slowly, almost gently. "Cole is an old friend. Didn't you say friendships with the opposite sex are fine as long as everything's transparent? I'm just being transparent. Don't twist my words, Harlo. This isn't the same." "Why not?" I asked, cutting him off. "You moved in with another woman. I've only had coffee and gone to an exhibit with a male friend. If there's a difference, tell me what it is." I could hear his breathing quicken on the other end. "Harlo, I won't accept this." "You don't get to accept or not, Ryan," I said evenly. "You gave up that right the moment you moved in with Maya." I ended the call and let the silence swallow whatever he wanted to say next. In the days that followed, Cole and I kept meeting. We didn't always take photos or post stories, but the time we spent together spoke for itself. Each quiet moment I shared, every smile, every calm exchange became its own message. It told Ryan and Maya both that I wasn't playing the abandoned one in their story anymore. And slowly, I realized something important. It wasn't Ryan's jealousy that was showing. It was his fear. Maya was starting to feel her grip slipping. One Thursday night, as I was scrolling through my phone before bed, a friend sent me a message. "Harlo, have you seen this? You really need to." I tapped the link. A newly created TikTok account appeared, its name almost laughable, "Roomy Vibes." Clip after clip played like a bad sitcom. In one, Ryan stood in the kitchen, flipping eggs while Maya giggled behind the camera. The caption read, "When your roommate turns into a reluctant chef." The next clip showed them on the couch, steaming mugs of coffee between them, laughing like carefree partners. Caption, "Living with your bestie really is the best." Each video sliced straight through my composure. Ryan had not only moved in with Maya, he had turned it into public entertainment. The comments flooded in. "So cute. Couple goals. You two are adorable." My blood boiled, but I didn't panic. Instead, I started taking screenshots every clip, every comment. Then a thought struck me, cold and clear. "Fine, Ryan. You want to be public. Let's be truly public." I opened the group chat he shared with his closest friends, the ones he always tried to impress, the ones who saw him as the respectable, dependable guy. I dropped the screenshots one by one, adding a single line, "Maybe everyone should see a glimpse of Ryan's new lifestyle." Then I went a step further. I messaged his parents directly. They were old-fashioned, proud of their reputation, and deeply concerned about family values. My message was short and polite. "Mr. and Mrs. Hart, I thought you should know what Ryan's been posting online." 10 minutes later, my phone rang. His mother's voice trembled with barely contained fury. "Harlo, what is this? Is he really living like this?" I answered gently, my tone even. "I didn't want to make a scene, but since you're his mother, I thought you deserved to know." I heard her breathing tighten on the other end. "He's turned everything into a joke. Does he realize what this does to our family's name?" Ryan had always loved telling people how proud his parents were of him. But that night, that image shattered. By midnight, my phone was vibrating again, message after message from him. "Why would you send that to my parents? You're destroying my life, Harlo." I didn't reply. I let the silence sit heavy between us, leaving him alone to choke on the weight of his own arrogance. The next morning, I got a call from one of his old friends, a guy named Aaron, half angry, half amused. "Harlo, you really did it?" "He's lost all face. We all saw the clips last night. None of us could believe it. How's Ryan supposed to show up now? He's turned himself into a public joke." I couldn't help but chuckle. Maybe he thought he was playing the hero. Aaron scoffed. "Well, now everyone knows he's just a headline waiting to happen." "Hero?" Aaron's voice had echoed with dry amusement. All we saw was a fool. That afternoon, my phone rang again. This time, Ryan's voice wasn't angry. It was unsteady. "Harlo, you know what my parents think now. They're shocked. They said I've embarrassed the family." I spoke quietly, my tone calm. "I only showed them the truth you were trying to hide, Ryan. You're the one who posted those clips, not me." He hesitated, his breathing uneven. "You don't get it? They'll never look at me the same again. You know how I am. I can't stand being looked down on." "Then maybe," I said, my voice measured, "you should have thought of that before putting yourself in that position." There was a long silence. On the line, I could hear him exhale heavily, the sound thick with frustration and fear. Ryan had always been obsessed with his image, the successful son, the respectable man. Now his parents were asking, "What are you doing with your life? How did you turn yourself into a spectacle?" I could picture him pacing around Maya's apartment, messages flooding his phone from family and friends, his confidence collapsing under the weight of his own choices. Losing me hadn't broken him, but losing his spotless reputation, that was the wound he couldn't hide. That night, I chose Lorenzo's, the Italian restaurant on Charles Street, the place Ryan and I once called ours. Birthdays, anniversaries, quiet dinners. But I'd learned recently that he had taken Maya there too, turning something personal into just another prop for their roommate life. That's why I picked this spot. Not for nostalgia, for clarity. Cole and I arrived early. The restaurant was softly lit, warm and familiar. Golden candlelight flickered against brick walls. The sound of silverware clinking blended with low murmurs and the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. I chose a table by the window visible enough to be seen the moment someone walked in. Cole looked composed in a smoky gray shirt under a navy blazer. He pulled out my chair, his smile warm and steady. "Are you sure this is what you want, Harlo?" he asked gently. I met his eyes. This isn't a game. This is me showing him I'm not silent anymore. We ordered wine. Cole talked about his firm's latest project, his tone light and casual. I found myself laughing, softly, freely. For the first time in a long while, I felt completely at ease. Half an hour later, the restaurant door opened. I looked up, and there they were. Ryan walked in with Maya. She wore a tight red dress and lipstick to match. Her arm looped through his like a statement. He wore the gray blazer I had once picked out for him. The moment his eyes met mine, his smile faltered. I didn't flinch. I held his gaze calm and unmoved. Maya leaned in toward him, whispering something I couldn't hear. But I caught her lips forming the words. What game is she playing? Ryan gave a small, forced nod, trying to keep his face composed. But I saw the tension in his jaw, his hand tightening around her arm just a little too hard. At that exact moment, Cole reached across the table and took my hand. It wasn't performative. It was natural, solid. I didn't pull away. I smiled at him, letting that single gesture speak louder than anything words could say. Across the room, Ryan hesitated. For the first time, he didn't look like the one in control. He looked lost. He guided Maya further inside, his posture stiff, his steps heavy. But as he passed, I caught his reflection in the wall's polished surface, his eyes flicking back toward me just once. And that fleeting glance said everything. The arrogance, the control, the certainty he once wielded. It was gone. "He isn't protecting you, Maya," I said evenly, my voice carrying through the low hum of the restaurant. "He's using you to feed his ego." The room seemed to still for a moment. I felt the shift, the soft buzz of whispers, the clinking of silverware fading. A few nearby diners turned their heads, their expressions moving from curiosity to pity, and finally, to quiet disgust directed at Ryan. Maya's face drained of color. She clutched at his sleeve like someone reaching for balance, her hand trembling. Ryan shifted in his seat, trying to look composed, but sweat had already begun to bead on his forehead. "Harlo," he hissed under his breath, "don't do this here. We can talk privately." I shook my head, my voice calm but unyielding. "No, Ryan. You made it public. You filmed it. You posted it. You turned your personal life into a performance for strangers to applaud. So today, the truth gets to be public too." Cole rose slightly from his chair beside me, steady, silent, unshakable. His hand found mine again, and that simple gesture was enough to remind me that I wasn't standing alone anymore. I turned to Maya. "You really think you're special to him? You're not. You're just proof. Proof that he can do whatever he wants, to whoever he wants, and still expect loyalty. Today it's me. Tomorrow it'll be someone else." Her lips parted slightly, the bright red of her lipstick fading as her confidence drained away. Someone at a nearby table muttered under their breath, loud enough to cut through the silence, "Shameful." Ryan spun around, his voice sharp. "This is private. Nobody here has any business." I crossed my arms, letting a cold, steady smile curve my lips. "You're the one who made it public, remember. You wanted an audience. Well, here they are. And now they've seen exactly who you are." The words landed harder than I expected. His expression cracked, anger, embarrassment, disbelief, all flickering across his face. This restaurant, the same place he'd once turned into a backdrop for his romantic theatrics, had become the stage of his undoing. Maya dropped her gaze to the floor, her silence louder than anything she could have said. After that night, everything began to collapse for Ryan faster than even I imagined. The TikTok clips, the ones he'd once proudly posted, spread beyond his control. His family had seen them, his friends had passed them around, and soon even strangers were mocking him. The man who once obsessed over his image, who built his identity on being admired, had become the punchline. A week later, I stopped by a coffee shop near my office and overheard his name. At the next table, a group of his former colleagues were talking, laughing quietly. Did you hear about Ryan? One said, shot himself in the foot, didn't he? Who moves in with a woman, broadcasts it online, and still calls himself loyal? Their laughter faded into the clatter of cups and conversation. I took a slow sip of my coffee, feeling neither triumph nor pity, just peace, because for the first time in years, his downfall wasn't my burden to carry. It was simply the truth catching up to him. No one trusted him anymore. I didn't need to say a word. The whispers alone did what I never could. They destroyed the image Ryan had spent years trying to perfect. Even his family couldn't hide their disappointment. One evening, his mother called me, her voice breaking between anger and heartbreak. Harlo, I don't even know what to say. I thought you'd be the one to make Ryan grow up. But now he's turned himself into a joke. His father hasn't been to parish meetings all week. Too ashamed of the gossip. I answered softly, I'm sorry for what you're going through. But this was Ryan's choice. Maya reacted differently. She began to fade from his life, one post at a time. Their shared clips disappeared, replaced by vague captions that sounded more like confessions than defenses. One of them read, sometimes you realize you were just a prop for someone else's ego. I wasn't surprised. She had thought she'd won. But when Ryan's image fell apart, she finally saw what I already knew. She was never the exception, just another tool for his validation. Then one afternoon there was a knock at my door. Ryan stood there, looking nothing like the man he used to be. Shirt wrinkled, eyes hollow, hair messy, confidence gone. Harlo, he said softly, please, just a few minutes. I opened the door but didn't step aside. What do you want, Ryan? He raised a hand, then dropped it, fumbling for words. I was wrong. He said finally, I thought what I was doing made me look strong. But I lost everything that mattered. My friends, my family's respect. Even Maya's leaving. I realize now the only person who ever really stood by me was you. I felt no anger, only clarity. You think a few apologies can erase everything. He stepped forward slightly, desperation tightening his voice. Just one more chance. I'll end it with Maya. I'll fix this. I'll prove. You won't prove anything. I interrupted, calm but firm. You don't belong in my life anymore. The words landed like glass breaking. He froze, his mouth open but silent. Everything you tried to prove, I continued, only showed how weak you are. Always needing someone to make you feel powerful. I'm done being part of that. His eyes filled, breath unsteady, but this time I didn't falter. Oh, and by the way, I added evenly, I'm going to Italy. He blinked, caught off guard. Italy. With who? With Cole, I said. A week in Tuscany. It hit him like a blow. He stumbled back half a step, eyes wide. You're going with him? Yes, I said quietly, with someone who listens, who respects, who doesn't turn love into a test. For the first time, I saw Ryan truly break. The arrogance, the certainty, the control. All gone. The only word he managed was a fractured whisper. Harlo. I shook my head gently. Goodbye, Ryan. Then I closed the door. The quiet click of it sounded final. A full stop at the end of a long, painful sentence. Tuscany greeted me with rolling hills under a sky of endless blue. I never thought I'd find myself here, not after everything. Only weeks earlier, I couldn't imagine letting go of the weight I'd carried for 2 years, yet here I was, standing on a small hotel balcony in Florence, watching the city glow gold beneath the night. A glass of red Chianti shimmered in my hand, its scent mingling with the warm Italian air. Cole stood beside me, leaning on the railing, his dark hair brushing his forehead, his eyes soft and steady. He turned toward me, smiling. What are you thinking, Harlo? I took a sip of wine, the taste rich and warm. I'm thinking, I said quietly, that I don't need to announce I've won. Sometimes living better is the clearest answer. Cole smiled, saying nothing. His hand found mine, not claiming, not demanding, just steady. From the square below, the faint sound of a guitar drifted upward, blending with laughter and conversation. The lights shimmered over Florence's rooftops, the city alive and breathing beneath the stars. I thought back to those sleepless nights in Chicago, waiting for messages that never came, trapped in endless arguments that led nowhere. The distance between that life and this one wasn't measured in miles but in courage. You know, I said softly. Ryan used to say love was a test of trust. But what he really wanted was control. Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence between us said everything. I used to think I had to argue, explain, justify my boundaries. I continued. But the truth is, the only way to win was to stop playing his game altogether and write my own rules. Cole's fingers tightened gently around mine. You did, he said, and I don't think you'll ever have to play by anyone else's rules again. A breeze swept by, carrying the faint scent of lavender from the countryside. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, feeling light free at last. For a moment, Ryan's face flashed in my mind, lost, confused, small. But it didn't hurt anymore. It only reminded me of how far I'd come. I turned to Cole, peace settling quietly inside me. I don't need revenge, I said softly, because this happiness right now is already the sharpest answer. He lifted his glass, clinking it gently against mine. Then here's to new rules. The soft chime of glass mingled with laughter and distant music as Florence unfolded below. Its cobblestone streets winding through light and shadow, its rooftops glowing under the moon. And in that moment I finally understood. When someone tests your limits, don't fight within their chaos. Step away, create your own rules, because peace, quiet, grounded, and entirely your own, is the most powerful ending there is.